All right, so we're picking up here on issue 2 of Deadpool, WW3, and Wolverine. Now, if we remember from the last issue, WW3 doesn't mean World War III, it means Wade Wilson III, which is who Deadpool has been transformed into here. And now in this issue, we're going to be finding out who is behind the experiments that transformed Deadpool, who also transformed Wither from the last issue, and who sent that kill squad here against Wolverine. Also, we're going to be discussing how Deadpool has essentially lost his immortality. Now, in the last issue, we ended with Wolverine finding Deadpool at the Bolshoi Theater in Russia, looking like a damn cyborg, by the way, with a lot of like spectators that were onlooking there. Now, after Wolverine had found him, Deadpool pulled these swords out of his hands and stabbed Wolverine in the stomach in a rather gruesome way. Now, they had fallen through a trapdoor here, which is where we pick up on in this second issue. Now, under this trapdoor, they are in the snowy mountain. Wolverine cuts off one of Deadpool's arms, but then you see like this purple steam coming out of it. And I'm like, okay, this is the same steam that we saw with Wither in the last issue. Then Deadpool starts regenerating his arm, which is not really a surprise, right? Because Pool regens, right? That's what he does. But this time, it's like a computer pixelated regeneration that kind of just caught your boy off guard. Now, Wolverine is giving this dude a 2-piece and a biscuit, right? Like Wolverine keeps cutting off his arm. Wolverine stabs him in the back, stabs him in the head a couple times. And Deadpool, he's gotten some hits too, but this fight is largely lopsided. But there were these drones that were there that were following them around. Now, the drones got cameras on them. So the same crowd that was watching in the last issue here is looking up at this big screen with them going at it again. And some are in awe of Wolverine, right? Although one of them says like, hey, he's an impressive physical specimen, but not much happening upstairs, which I'm like, damn, like savage, bro. So one asks, do you think Delta planned this? The response is no. And if the Wolverine upsets the experiment, my funds shall be withheld. So that name that was mentioned right there, Delta, is a person that has been behind all of these experiments. He has a similar purple glow like the soldiers who attacked Wolverine, and the same with like Wither from the last issue, and of course now Deadpool that we're seeing with the pixelated arm. He also has like these purple and black veins that are going through like his neck and his arms. There's like a glow pixelated purple vestish looking thing that's over him as well, similar to what we saw, like I said, with Deadpool's regenerated arm, right? And then he also has some ski glasses, which is a nice touch because he's definitely dressed for the outside environment. Now, either way, he steps in with this girl named Greta and stops the fight between Deadpool and Wolverine because he has to protect his work, right? Because if he doesn't protect Wolverine dying, then this experiment is gone, then his funding is gonna be gone, right? Especially considering that Deadpool and Wolverine destroyed his last work in Wither in the last issue, right? So, by the way, that's actually the reason why Delta had sought out Deadpool in the first place, was because of him, destroying his last work in Wither in the last issue. Now, Wolverine asks a question, what did you do to him? So he says exactly what he asked for, the opportunity to achieve his best, quantitatively best self and his becoming. So right then and there, we know now that Deadpool volunteered to do this. They didn't take him, he volunteered to be a part of this. And if you haven't realized by now, Delta is basically running another more enhanced version of a Weapon X program, right? Like Delta mentions how Wade Wilson III, so confirming the name, serves a higher purpose with no destructive ego to derail him, and his potential for greatness is exceptional after he has adjusted to this new life. So the thing about Delta is that he believes in fixing people, right? That there is this like folly that people believe in being able to achieve this higher purpose, but that ultimately is unattainable in their natural human state. So the only way for them to be able to physically do that is through his enhancements, which is why whenever his experiments go through this change, they don't just change physically, there's like a psychological change that happens with his experiments as well, because that is kind of how he's helping them to achieve this higher purpose and how he's introducing them into the becoming, as he says here a couple of times. Now, he's offering the same opportunity to Wolverine, who of course is just like, yeah, F off, like leave me alone, right? So he eventually lets Deadpool and Wolverine wander off into the mountains while the drones and the cameras still have their eyes on him. Now, there are a few times where we see Deadpool coughing up blood, which is weird. And overall, like, they're wandering here for about 6 weeks until Deadpool finally opens up. So first he takes off his helmet, and the sight that you see is horrific. Like, it is bad. Like, this dude is missing an eye. His face is all jacked up. Then he tells Wolverine, he's like, you know the thoughts that keep you up at night? Like, why am I so screwed up? Does God hate me personally? Will I ever not feel like a walking, talking piece of crap? The old me would drown those thoughts out with various recreational poisons, but this last time I just could not shake it. So this is the reason why Deadpool went along with this. Like, he essentially is tired of the life that he's living, and he essentially just wants to die, basically, right? And Delta takes advantage of this moment of weakness here, because Deadpool mentions that, you know, was somebody that came and saw him that offered him 10 large to come talk to him. And then here comes Delta, and then Delta says to him, like, life can't have meaning because the bad parts of Deadpool are the worst parts, and they're gonna live forever. So then Deadpool talks about his healing factor. He's like, my healing factor is distilled from your healing factor, blessing and a curse. It kept me from dying from cancer, but it also kept me from dying from cancer. So Delta doesn't even try to like stop his healing factor. What he does is that he supercharges the cancer 10,000 times more to make sure that essentially it kills him. So that's why you see him like coughing up his blood. That's why his face looks the way that he looks right now. And that is essentially going to cause Deadpool to lose his immortality, because the thing that's going to happen is that he's ultimately going to succumb to the cancer that is in his body, because he can't heal from that anymore. Now, he can still regen, as we saw already with like the arm, but you know, he's not going to be able to stave off that cancer anymore. So shortly after here, like, Delta shows up again. Now, this time with this like beastly looking purple and black thing with like 4 eyes on it, and I can only assume is another one of his experiments, right? So the beast says things like, I am not afraid, multiple times he says it, which, if you remember from the last issue here, the one that we covered this already on the channel, the last issue here, Wither kept saying something like, I want my summer. So it seems like these experiments that Delta does, that they always have like a particular phrase that has some special meaning to some weakness that they had prior to the experiment, right? So this beast, he gets unleashed on Wolverine. Like, he tears off his skin. You can see it here, like he exposes like the adamantium, you know, skeleton that's under his body here. And he eventually then later on like rips in half Deadpool. Very reminiscent, right, of Juggernaut in the Deadpool 2 movie. He rips him in half. He then throws him and Wolverine down. Well, actually, he throws half of the body at Wolverine and it hits him, and then they both just get like sent and tossed all the way down the mountain. And although Wolverine is ripped in half, by the way, like, and his head is actually like, you can see it there, like right on top of his body, like, we're still expecting some type of regeneration to happen here, because he can still heal, just not enough to remove the cancer. But before that could even happen, the beast comes in and steps on Deadpool, and all you can see is his feet, with just like blood spattered all around him. And Wolverine is calling out Wade in, you know, in capital letters here with a question mark, like, whoa, what is happening? The beast then says to Wolverine, you are afraid. And that is essentially where we leave things. So wow, like, Deadpool has to come back, right? Like Deadpool has to come back. How exactly is Wolverine going to survive this one? Also, question, did Delta just lose his funding because Deadpool appears to have failed as an experiment? I don't know. Find out next time on Dragon Ball. No, I'm kidding. But seriously, if you haven't watched my breakdown on the first issue here for this series, then go check that out here on the channel. I'll actually leave a link up here for you to click on it on the screen. Also, leave your predictions, man, in the comics and woman, and let me know what you think will happen in the next issue. And as always, guys, thank you so much for kicking it with Keepin' It Comic.